Shalom family. Let's look at what's happening in June 2024. And yes, shocking that we're still here. But every time people go, I can't believe we're still here. I'm exactly like you. And why is it taking so long? Because the King does not desire any to be lost. He is in the field. He is reaching the lost. He's busy with the harvest. Every minute, every day we tarry, somebody else got saved. Right now, while I'm talking, somebody else got saved. Somebody else got saved. Somebody else got touched by Jesus. Somebody else got saved. Would we deny that? Would we want them to have stayed behind and we went in the rapture? He won't be late. He's always on time. So let's look, just to be excited, at what's happening right now in June, so that you can realize how close we are and how busy things are just this month. So June 2024, 3 to 4 June, is the 155th session of the Executive Board of the World Health Organization. That's taking place. Wrapping up today. Interesting. Now, I wonder what they're busy with. I wonder what they're busy doing. The 4th of June, Jerusalem Day and Flag March. Flag March has been approved through the Muslim quarter. That's going to cause quite a bit of chaos. They are busy with that today. That is Yom Yerushalayim, an Israeli national holiday commemorating the reunification of East Jerusalem, including the Old City, with West Jerusalem following the Six-Day War of 1967. 5th of June, World Environment Day. Climate change, everything else they're going to push on that day. 6th June, Macron to make announcement regarding troops to Ukraine for training. And NATO escalation with Russia. And interesting that they picked this day when they think about the D-Day landings from World War II. 7 June, World Health Organization Digital Health at G7. 7 June, World Health Organization World Food Safety Day. And they say the theme is prepare for the unexpected. Interesting, don't you think? Especially us knowing the famine that's building around the world and that everyone says it's going to be the worst thing ever experienced due to food insecurity. Prepare for the unexpected. 8th June, Macron meeting with Biden regarding Ukraine and NATO-Russia situation. And they'll be discussing this and talking about the way forward. Interesting. 8th June, United Nations World Oceans Day. 10 June, Chinese Dragon Boat Festival. Now, why have I got this in here? Besides the fact that they're praying to and worshipping a poet from their historic record, it's another dragon reference. And I've covered a couple of these on this channel. There's constant dragon references in this, the year of the dragon, as we're going into this final time of mankind when the great dragon is cast out. Dragon Boat Festival, 10 June. 13 June, Netanyahu to address the Congress in America. Now, this is definitely something you want to watch. Is he going to be arrested because of the arrest warrant that's out for him because he'll be in America? Won't he be arrested? There's so many things that can go wrong. There's so much upset. I can guarantee you there's going to be massive protests and things organized by Soros and his buddies and Obama and everyone when this takes place. So I'm shocked that he's actually going physically, but he's going on the 13th of June. Would be a great way to take him off the board. Let him arrive, do his speech, have him arrested, claim you had no option in that, it wasn't you, it was someone else. He gets taken out. They have to reorganize the government. They get someone that's more happy to go with their plans and the division of the land, and we move forward. Lots of potential for things to happen. So that's 13 June. 13 to 14 June, meeting of NATO Ministers of Defense in Brussels. discussing the situation with Russia, the tensions, the stresses, conscription factors happening in all the countries, the shortage of arms and munitions, looking at World War III staring everyone in the face, the fact that they probably can't rely on America because of the elections coming up, and it looking very much like their newly convicted criminal might be president. So there's a lot of things they'll be discussing that affect them from a peace and security perspective and how they can prepare for what's lying ahead. I personally don't think there's much they can do this late in the game. But that meeting, 13 to 14 June. 13 to 15 June, the 50th G7 meeting, right? 50, again pointing to a Jubilee cycle in a Jubilee year. 50th G7 meeting. That will be Trudeau, Macron, Scholz, Maloney, Sunak, and Biden. Special invitees will be there, so there's a whole bunch of countries invited as well. The ones I wanted to point out specifically to you at this 50th session, Saudi Arabia. Becoming a big player in just about everything to do with peace, security, conflict, and world moving. And Mohammed bin Salman at the center and core of this whole situation. So Saudi Arabia is there. The Vatican is there. And they'll be discussing a day of rest that they want to implement and institute. Go look into that. That's also very interesting. So the Pope at this G7. Turkey will be there. One of the most outspoken Islamic leaders trying to rally the Islamic world against Israel and to demonize and villainize them and destroy Israel, and calling everyone else out for not helping him do exactly that. So Turkey is going to be there. Egypt is going to be there. Egypt, that has lots of contention at the moment with Israel about the ongoing situation in Rafah and in Gaza, and that whole peace situation between them and Israel is very fragile at the moment and on unstable ground. So Egypt is there. South Africa is there. Big noise, no action, causing chaos, trying to rally everyone against Israel, playing their part in that when their own country is falling apart at the seams. So that's interesting. 15 to 16 June, Ukraine Peace Summit to be held in Switzerland, looking at a way forward with Russia to make peace and bring all of this conflict to an end or completion, and then what is going to happen the day after. 19 June, United Nations International Day for Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. This falls under their peace and security category. Now it's interesting for me because it falls under the peace and security. When they say peace and security or peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come upon them. Right? You know that verse. So it falls under that. But for me, they haven't bothered to speak out about the sexual violence against Israeli women that took place on October 7. They haven't decided to stand publicly on that issue, to bring that to light, to speak to those victims. Even the fact that there are still women in captivity by Hamas right now. The United Nations doesn't care. Why? Because they're Jewish and it's Israel, and they are openly anti-Semitic and anti-Israel from the very get-go. 20 June, United Nations International Refugee Day. Here they're going to celebrate this and say how awesome it is that more and more countries are doing this. They'll maybe even up the quotas here and take more Islamic immigrants into the countries, and so establish this end-time army stronger and stronger all over the Western world in preparation for that final week of Daniel. Interesting. Consider for a moment, when the church is removed, Islam becomes the biggest majority religion on earth. And they are working right now through things like refugees to make sure that they are evenly and widely spread everywhere on earth. Then, besides all those dates, which in itself should tell you just how busy and incredible this month is and how much is happening on how high watch we're sitting on, There's a planetary parade in the sky that NASA's trying to downplay because they're not perfectly lined up at the exact time and you can't see all of them directly and you need binoculars and telescopes. But 6 planets will be visible over the course of a few days. 6. At a time when we reach 6,000 years of mankind, 6 days of toil and a day of rest, coming to a final 1,000-year time of peace under the rule of Jesus Christ ahead of us. 6 planets will be visible. So that number 6 always jumps out at me for those reasons. Besides that, it is the number of man, and that in triplicate it will be the number of the beast. The giant sunspot is back, and we're receiving flare warnings again from them. So possible storm effects, hurricanes, chaos in our weather patterns, radio transmissions being affected and things like that. We are now directly at this very moment experiencing that. And again, we're going to experience more and more and more, because the book of Revelation says at that point it will scorch mankind and they will still curse God. This is building up towards that. So you will see more and more activity in the sun the closer we get. Hezbollah is upping the ante and firing more and more rockets into Israel and attacking every way they can, their bases and everything else. They've caused fires now all over Israel that are almost out of control. So Israel's literally burning at this stage. Israel's running exercises with the IDF, preparing for a full-scale war on their northern border. They know it's coming. As soon as they wrap up in Rafah, they're focused on the war in Hezbollah's territory with Lebanon. Israel's fighting them, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, Iran, even Iraq got involved that time. They are on multiple fronts, surrounded by their enemies, under onslaught and attack on a daily basis. And on top of that, the world condemning them all the time, daily. And then on top of that, they discovered, when they entered Rafah, large tunnels under Rafah, linking it directly to Egypt. Tunnels big enough for vehicles to drive in, with signs of vehicles that have recently driven. So my question is, then the hostages have probably been removed out via Egypt. And the leaders of Hamas they're searching for are probably out through that tunnel to Egypt. Why would you stay in Rafah waiting for the IDF if there are tunnels linked to Egypt, which they now had to close when they found them? I reckon they're out through those tunnels, gone. Political division is being stoked in Israel right now in a huge way. A possible split coming, which could oust Netanyahu and his right-wing government. Gantz, who went to America without the blessing of the Prime Minister and had his own meetings, he is at the forefront of this, even though Netanyahu still has more votes and more support from the general public than Gantz does. He is driving this division, which explains a lot about an initial meeting that he had in America back then without permission from Netanyahu. So what that's doing is that's put us straight back, if you will, and people aren't talking about this or realizing this. It's taken us from here, June 2024, whoop, right back to just before October 7, October 5, 2023. Israel was fractured. There were riots in the streets and protests. The government was just all over the place. Everyone was against everyone, and it looked so unstable, and they were fighting with each other and trying to resolve issues. And while they were looking at each other and arguing and fighting and doing these things, the enemy attacked. Now we have the same situation again. Everyone fighting with everyone, tensions and splits possibly on the horizon. Netanyahu is on his way to America to address Congress. He might take this deal. If he takes the deal, Ben Gvir and Smotrich have said they will pull out of that whole coalition. Netanyahu's government falls flat, which is exactly what America wants. They've already primed Gantz. Gantz goes in, rallies the troops, gets some opposition parties together, creates a weak Israeli government. They agree to the 2SS, the two-state solution. MBS maybe comes in with some great ideas, and they all start making deals. to the detriment of Israel, and they divide God's land, and they bring false peace and security, peace and safety for a period of 7 years, which will be broken 3.5 years in. So do you see how all these things could possibly be lining up for that perfect time bomb moment of end time prophecy and timetable right in front of us? So all of that's happening right now. Hence, pray for Israel. Then, if we go a little bit further out, Taiwan and China tensions are at all-time highs. They're busy encircling them. They're doing exercises. They're crossing the median line with boats and planes. They're testing defenses. They've released video showing how they're going to attack with rockets on Taiwan, what the plan is. That can go off at any moment. And when and if and when that goes off, they're saying, the specialists, the experts, all those people, that will crash the money system worldwide immediately. And that will force a reset, which will then be a digital CBDC connected to a social credit score system, already being tested and in place by countries all over the world. Good to go. They just need the crash to happen. Taiwan-China war kicks off, that crash happens immediately. That's one possibility. North Korea testing all her missiles and prepping for, as soon as she gets her orders from China and Russia to attack, as soon as she feels threatened, remembering that their military have got permission from the supreme leader, as soon as they feel threatened, they can retaliate, including with nuclear weapons. So it's a very volatile situation, and North Korea is definitely going to play a huge part in end-time prophecy leading to these wars, rumors of wars, World War III scenarios and things like that. People are going to underestimate the crazy little man, and he's going to do what he does when the time comes, probably when the restraint is removed. It is crazy that in a country where they are starving for food and for truth, he always has enough money to test missiles in mass as often as he likes. And he has no problem with lack of food either. Russian nuclear threats are ramping up all the time. Nuclear tests and drills, everything's in place. Everything has been tested. The threats are there. They've released a map of exactly where they can attack all over Europe, everyone that gets involved in Ukraine. And as these things escalate, it's only a matter of time. And again, I keep coming back to this. Where's the Belgorod? The Belgorod has those nuclear little submersible weapons that they can launch, park off a coast wherever they want, and then wait for orders for them to launch their munitions at pre-designated cities in enemy countries. Where's the Belgorod? Is it parking these things off your coasts all over the place in preparation? Because you wouldn't find them if it did. They're small, they're prepped, they're parked, they're remotely activated. Where is the Belgorod? So all these things are in play, including the fact that the entire world is focused on Israel right now. The entire world seemingly wants to agree with and recognize the Palestinian state, the division of Israel. Everyone accepts that except two countries, or two people groups, let's say that. Israel and the Palestinians. Neither of them want a two-state solution. The rest of the world, however, does. Isn't that a bit odd? The two that are actually in the situation, shouldn't they say what they want? No. No, it's not about that. It's about the rest of the world seeing Jerusalem as a cup of trembling and all nations coming against Israel to divide the land, to cause chaos that God will judge them for very, very soon. So, very, very busy. And then if we look at the natural situation in Manila, Philippine authorities have ordered the evacuation of residents living near a volcano in central Philippines on June the 4th, following an eruption that sent a 5-kilometer high ash cloud into the sky. 43 volcanic earthquakes recorded in Canloan. Kilauea volcano is erupting in Hawaii. A new eruption began at approximately 12:30 a.m. on Monday June the 3rd, 4 kilometers southwest within Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. The eruption is ongoing, but in a remote location at this point. So no stress for human life or critical infrastructure at this point. So that's 2 volcanoes going off. Strong quake shakes Japan. Monday's quake around 6:30 a.m. registered magnitude 6.0 at 14 kilometers underground. That's shallow. That's close. The agency said the hard-hit cities of Wajima and Suzu near the top of the peninsula. California saw 5 earthquakes within hours the day after Lake County, Ohio was shaken. So the world is tense and groaning. There's issues with earthquakes and volcanoes. There's storms building. There's solar flares. There's wars, rumors of wars, famines, chaos everywhere, and a really, really busy schedule for June 2024. So be excited. Look up. Preach the gospel. Trust in God. Walk in faith by Him, not by sight. And draw closer to Him every day. Every opportunity you have to share the gospel, share it. It might be the last chance you have. We live for Christ. We wake up, we walk, and we live, and we plan for Christ. His will, not our will. Anything we want to do, if it's God's will, we seek His face in all things. And we reach as many as we can with the truth. No truth that you speak from the Word of God will come back empty. It might not immediately work. They might reject you immediately. But the seed of God's Word is planted. God will do the rest. You just need to be a willing participant in the Great Commission. God bless. Be excited. Keep looking up. Don't let people dampen your excitement or try and put out your flame. Shine brightly. Be excited. Look up. Anticipate the return of our bridegroom for the bride. Shalom.